Hey, everybody, welcome back into the room. These conversations have been everything that you can imagine. They've been exciting, they've been boring, they've been transformational, they've been tear jerking, they've been fabulous. And every person brings into the room a different conversation. The beauty of each of these conversations is we know nothing about each other. We've never met before, we've never spoken before. And we've had something about us have allowed us to be brave enough to walk into this room. You have a cat in back.
The cat on my head.
That's right. We've been brave enough to walk in the room with a cat on our head, and my daughter's favorite, one of my favorite, her favorite movies is Cat in the Hat. So you have Cat in the Head, okay?
Yes.
Um, and and we've been able to just sit together and sort of find out about each other, and most of it is me asking questions about another person. Sometimes they're asking questions about me. Everything is permitted, but the idea is to sit together and see if we're different or if we're similar, and to let you guys make up the decision as a listening audience to see how if there's resonance in what you feel. The conversation is being sponsored by the book over my left shoulder, which is the Mosaic. It's the story I wrote. It's a story about a boy who loses his parents 2 years apart on the same day. And when he asks the adults where his parents are, they tell him they're in a place called heaven. So without missing a moment, he sets out in search of the place called heaven, because he's searching for that beautiful, pure, unconditional love that he felt from his parents. The people that he meets along the way are not the people you would imagine that would teach him about heaven. They're not the clergy and the rabbis and the priests and the ministers and the shamans and the Aborigines elders. They are a trash man and a street worker and a blind woman and a homeless man, a waitress and a juice man and a traveler and a gardener. And he wonders, why am I meeting these people? Until the moment when he realizes, I'm here with them. I might as well sit with them and just listen to them tell me their story. And in listening to their stories, he sees in every single case that the person he originally thought he was walking up to isn't at all the person he's sitting with. And it's not because they've changed. It's because his preconceived notion of who they were changed. And so when he sees over and over again that his preconceived notions of the way the world is, the way he sees the world, is not the way the world is, it makes him say, I wonder if anything I see in the world is the way it is, or if everything is just the way I see it. And I wonder what would happen if I moved myself out of the way and just saw what was. At that moment, he looks over to his right and he sees a monk who is unzipping the sky, and the monk invites him into a parallel reality where he meets the wise one and who's the keeper of the Mosaic. That is the little ad for the Mosaic. That is the little ad for my sponsors. It's available on Amazon. It's available on my website. But having now fulfilled that obligation, let's walk away from that and then just say, Sheila Stone, how are you today? Welcome to the conversation.
Hi. Thank you very much. I'm feeling great, except for some reason my cat has suddenly decided I need a grooming, which she's never done before. So that's always interesting. Um, but yeah, I'm really excited to be here. I am looking forward to our chat.
So I love that. And I just am a question guy. So if anything I ask doesn't feel comfortable, just say it doesn't feel comfortable. Tell me what excites you about coming into this room. Why are you excited to be here?
Um, I'm excited because I love meeting people. I do travel. I have a travel company. But you know, the best thing about travel isn't seeing the places, it's meeting the people.
Well,
And this is giving me a chance to meet you.
fabulous. I love that answer. So you've told us a little bit about what you do. Tell us who you are and what's important to you.
Um, who am I? I'm kind of a person looking for connections. Connections are really important to me. That's why I do what I do is, you know, to make those connections, both to the clients and to people, you know, that I meet when I travel. I have uh, 2 degrees in cultural anthropology that I got late
Wow.
because I didn't go back to school till I was 48. So, yeah, that was interesting. I ended up at UCLA with both of my sons.
Wow.
It's a big campus. We didn't live together, and they were old enough that they found it more funny than anything else.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. Um, and I didn't start traveling until overseas until I was 50. So
Wow.
I kind of I like to think of myself as a late bloomer,
Yes. Yes. Well,
but
they say better late than never, right?
absolutely, absolutely. And I feel very strongly about that. I think because I started, life got in the way. I had two sons who are grown now and they're wonderful and fabulous. Um, and I was a single parent. So that kind of kept me
Wow.
busy.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet it did. I mean, that's a huge undertaking, and more becoming. When I grew up, and maybe when you grew up too, the nuclear family was sort of a sacred union, and we grew up in a different time. I grew up in a time where my dad worked hard to make a living, didn't do that well doing that, but he whatever little money he had, he brought back and tried to make sure we had everything we needed or more than that, everything we wanted. And I remember just dinners were always just the most enjoyable time. We'd sit around the dinner table and laugh. Television wasn't as prevalent as it is now. There was maybe two or three stations for a couple hours on, or a few hours in the evening. And I remember my dad would sit and turn the radio on and sing to Nat King Cole, and
Oh,
my mom would swoon around him as if he was like, some sort of rat pack guy or something. Um, but those memories are so innocent now compared to the world we live in now. Um,
yeah, it's changed
what do
a
you
lot.
what do you see in because I'm not assuming you grew up the same way I did, but I'm assuming you grew up differently than the way it is now, and you say it changed a lot. What do you see has changed? What's the central thing that you see has changed?
Fragmentation, I think. Um, it used to be that the family, as you said, was very much together in the evenings, and you had that time to develop a shared history. Um, now it's much more fragmented. Everybody's, they're all doing this,
Yes.
and so we're connected with people from all over but not connected with the people that we're with. um, and that's a real sad thing. Uh, when I was uh, Before I became a single parent, when I was still married, my ex-husband was verbally abusive. So we started watching television at dinner, not because that was what I wanted, but because by doing that, it was a way of shielding my sons from getting a barrage from him.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
and that's a regret, but I did the best I could.
Yeah. Of
And I
course.
don't beat myself up over those things. But then once he wasn't there anymore, while they were teenagers, we hosted exchange students, international
Wow.
exchange students, and we had wonderful dinners.
Wow. Wow. I love I want to bring the listeners in, and I want the listeners to just start to think as you're hearing this conversation. Where do you where do you bury some of the troubles in your life and put other sounds over them so that you can protect the people around you because you just don't know how to get through them in life? To me, in my book The Mosaic, those are called the potholes. Every road, no matter how beautiful it is, no matter how glorious it is, no matter how many trees line it, or how simple it is, no matter how many curves it has or how straight it goes, eventually it develops a pothole. We all do it. And how do you deal with those potholes that are in your life, which are an abusive man, an abusive father, an abusive husband, um, and what a brilliant solution to just try and refocus the energy to something else. but the energy never really goes away until it goes away. And eventually, it seems like you made a decision that had to end because it was better for everybody if it did. How did you do
Yeah.
that for people who are listening? And I'm sure there are people that are listening that are in situations in their life that aren't great with their spouse. What gave you the courage or made you able to make that decision?
I knew slowly, it dawned on me that it wasn't going to be getting any better, that it was actually getting worse. I wanted to protect my sons. I wanted to protect myself as well. Um, and how I did it was very haltingly, very wobbly. Um, and I look back and go, wow, I could have done that better. But I try to treat myself as I would treat a friend, someone who wasn't me, and went, she did the best she could. Wasn't perfect, but she did the best she could. So I try to treat myself with gentleness.
I want our listeners to hear that because so often we think that so often the way we treat friends of ours is so much kinder than the way we treat ourselves. And I wonder why that is. And you might pause to think, do you do that in your world? Are you kinder to your friends than you are to yourself? Do you do things to yourself that you would never do to your friends? And I just want you to take a listen because Sheila is so open and real and honest in that situation. I want to allow her honesty to allow you to be more honest at home as you listen. Sheila, what makes you happy?
Being with my sons makes me happy.
Yeah.
I They're 37 and 39. It's one of those things where you go, I don't understand how that happened.
Wow.
How did they
Wow.
get so old? But they're wonderful. They're fun, and they just totally make me happy. Travel makes me happy. Being with my friends makes me happy. Um, I per, Writing makes me happy.
What's that? What
Uh,
makes you happy? What was the last thing?
writing, writing.
Writing. Wow. Beautiful.
Uh, well, I can't travel right now, so I'm writing.
Yeah.
That I can do from my bedroom.
Yeah.
So, that makes me happy. Um, I'm an Anglophile, so British things make me happy.
Okay.
History
Okay.
makes
Cool.
me happy.
And what would you say is important to you? Like, if you had to boil it down, what's the most important thing to you?
The most important thing to me is people.
People.
Um, I'm starting, of course, with my sons, but just people in general. We often don't treat each other kindly, and especially with, the way things have been lately, people say things that, you wonder, did you mean to say that out loud?
Right.
Because
Right.
that's really insensitive.
Yeah.
um, and I think that, we're not treating each other with the kindness that we should be.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that that is the most important thing, is how we treat each other. That's so much more important than stuff and, power and fame and all of that.
Yeah.
Um, I think, yeah, just being kind.
It's it's really interesting. I have an ongoing dialogue with my wife because she looks at the situation, and if I were to be transparent, she looks at the Trump presidency, for instance, without saying one side or another. I'm not a big Trump fan, and I don't really like the way he behaves. I think he's done some good things for the country, but I don't like his the morality that he's brought into the world. But she looks at it from a bigger perspective, from a larger perspective, and says all this stuff has been living inside us for a long time, and he's bringing it to the surface. And we can't get through it unless we look at it and see it and decide how to work with it and uplift it, change it, fix it, whatever it is we want to do. And I wonder, I have to admit, to me, I feel there's some truth in that. There's like, when you remodel your house, the house has to get ugly first for a little bit. There's a whole lot of mess, and you have to make that mess and clean it up, and then the house looks good. Do you think there's any truth in that to you?
Yes, absolutely. Donald Trump didn't create racism. He didn't create all of these things that we're dealing with now. I think he exacerbated it. But by bringing it to the forefront, number one, we're going to have to deal with it. Number
Yeah.
two, I think it makes people like me who think, well, I'm not racist.
Yeah.
Um, and I have black friends, and that it's deeper than that. That I've learned a lot. It at first it was a little bit like, wait, um, it was uncomfortable, but I think
Yes.
it's important.
Yeah. I remember in one of the shows that I did, someone told me about a Harvard standardized test, and it's on all different levels. It's on economy, it's on color, it's on borders, it's on everything that you can religion. I took the one on color, thinking that I'm probably the least racist person that you could ever imagine because I don't even think in the I don't even see color. I was shocked because the way we've grown up is so conducive to white being good and black being bad. Like things that the cowboys that were good wore white cowboy hats. The bad guys wore black cowboy hats. Um, Everything we believe in is enlightenment. We want to come out of the darkness. It's all these inferred images that make us that presuppose our mind to think that a color is either good or bad when a color is just a color. And
Yeah.
the result of my tests showed me, which to my shock, that I'm much more comfortable with people of lighter skin than of darker skin. And I was humbled by it, awakened by it, and I thought really the work that I have to do is inside me, not outside of me.
Oh yeah. Uh, One of my best friends. I hate to say this, it sounds so cliche, but one of my best friends is black. And when I was at a party at her house one time, I was the only white person there. And I remember thinking, okay, this is a little weird. This is
Yeah,
a little uncomfortable. And then realizing how much that happens to people of color, that they're the only person in
yeah,
whatever group it is that is a person of color. And yeah, when we see things like that and we acknowledge them, it is a little bit uncomfortable, but it's a good uncomfortable.
yeah,
It's an
yeah,
uncomfortable we need to feel.
yeah. I had very similar experiences because almost same exact situations, being the only white person in a room full of black people, and feeling, and they were militant blacks also, so they came and said, "What are you doing here, hunky?" And so
Okay.
and so I had the exact feeling of what a black person feels when a militant white voice or a policeman or whatever, it doesn't mean policeman, but and I was really interested to see my response. And I would like to ask the listeners here, since we're on this topic, which we don't get into in this room that much, and I'm happy we are with Sheila, is imagine yourself in a room of a person with people of different color, and try and even more than that, put yourself into a situation where you would be in a room with people of other color, with people who spoke a different language, with people from across the border, with people that are a different religion, with people who believe differently than you. Come out of your silo of like-mindedness and see how you would actually feel, and how would you be, and what does that feel like. What a fascinating place we've gotten to, and I appreciate it. I'm gonna move it around a little bit if I can to just make it a little lighter for a couple of minutes, and then we'll go back in. Um, I call this the lightning round, and I want to let you know right off the bat I suck at the lightning round because I'm too curious to go too fast. But let's try it, okay?
Okay.
I think from what I've already seen of you that I know the answer to this question. Dog or cat person?
Cat.
Okay. I didn't want to assume. Coffee or tea?
Ooh. Ugh. Depends on my mood.
Okay. What makes you a coffee drinker and what makes you a tea person? What mood would bring which drink?
Just whatever sounds good. But if I'm traveling, like if I'm in Britain, it's tea. If I'm in Japan, it's probably green tea. I try to have whatever is
Lovely.
kind of indigenous to wherever I am.
So when you're in Rome, you do like the Romans, right? Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah, give me that, give me that gelato.
I love it. Um, Not just politically, but just the way you think. Are you more conservative or more liberal in the way you believe?
I'm liberal.
Yeah. Would you say you're shy or outgoing?
I'm outgoing, but I'm an ambivert. If I have to be outgoing for a long period of time, I have to also have quiet time or I get a little crazy.
Tell me what that word means, ambivert. I don't know that I've heard. I might have heard it, but I never had the courage to ask what it means.
I read it and I went, oh my gosh, that's me. It's you've got extroverts and you've got introverts. The ambivert is a person that just kind of goes back
Ah,
and forth between the two.
I love that. I haven't heard that. I mean, if I heard it, I didn't understand it before, so I'm happy you explained it to me. Um, do you feel? Have you felt in your life that you've always fit into the world, or have you always felt a little bit different?
Different. I come from a situation where I wasn't raised by my biological mother or father. They both, I was born, they both remarried. I grew up with my mom's aunt and uncles, and I never quite fit in to either family. So I've always felt like a bit of an outsider.
Yeah. One of the data points that that keeps shocking me because I would have thought the world would say it fits into the world better, and it might just be the demographic that's drawn to talk to me. But I'm overwhelmed by the amount of people who feel different than the world because I would have naturally my assumption coming in is that most people would say they fit into the world, and there's just a few of us outcasts that feel like we don't fit in, and and it makes me sort of amazed at the brilliance of Steve Jobs when he created his logo for Apple, his sort of um, saying for Apple that Apple is for those crazy ones, the ones that think they can change the world, the ones that are different, that don't feel like they fit in. And I thought, initially I thought, what a crazy thing. Why would he go for those people? But from the show, I see most of us feel different in some way. And it was just a brilliant marketing strategy to capture those people who were different in a group that of people to make them feel like they were a part of something.
Yeah.
Interesting,
Well,
right?
everybody is part of um, subcultures. You know, we
Yeah,
all have, and that's when I took cultural anthropology. That's the part I found most fascinating
yeah,
is the subcultures. And I don't mean necessarily underground culture. Uh, People who like country music, that's a subculture. They have people that they really enjoy. There are people who are really, really famous that I've never heard of.
right.
And that's a subculture. And I think subcultures are the most interesting because they have their own rules and they have their own, little quirks and they have their famous people. And I love it. I just
Yeah,
find it, people are great.
it
They're
makes life
fascinating.
interesting. It sure
Yes.
makes life interesting. What are you most scared of?
Earthquakes.
Earthquakes.
And I live in California. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Are you in what part of California are you in?
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. Okay.
So I've
Uh,
got smoke, but
yeah.
not, yeah.
But you're not scared of the fires. You're scared of earthquake.
Well, because where I live, a fire would have to burn through miles and miles and miles of concrete to get to
I,
me. I don't
I
live
got
in
you.
in an area that is dangerous as far as that goes. But earthquakes they're pretty democratic. I mean, they get everybody.
Yes, they sure do. They sure do. And we know it's only a matter of time until it will happen. So it's sort of interesting that we all choose to live here. But where are you gonna live at that point? You know?
I would be happy to move, but my sons are here,
Yeah,
and so that's why I stay.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
if I could
I
live
understand.
anywhere, I'd live in Skipton, North Yorkshire, England.
Wow, wow.
Yeah,
That sounds fun.
pretty specific.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like something you're gonna have to do maybe one day to be that specific, right?
I have lived there. That was where I
Oh,
lived when I went to grad school, and I get back whenever I can. It's
yeah,
just this wonderful little historic market town on a canal.
beautiful. What are you most excited by?
I get really excited by new adventures, by traveling, by knowing I'm going to go somewhere, I'm going to have an experience that is, in a lot of ways, beyond my control. Um, that if I'm open, I will meet really, really interesting people. Some may change my life. Um, I'll experience different foods and different customs, and I love that.
So, for people who are listening who are scared to death of new things, because there's so many people are, and I want to just throw, a nice lob over the net to you, because oftentimes as people get older, they get less open to change. They like to stay the same. They like the things that bring them comfort. What is it about you that allows you to love change and to love new experiences?
I think part of the reason is, um, when I was a single parent, I was focused on my kids. When they grew up, I could stay the same and stay in a dead end job and, just continue to do that. But I felt like if I did that, I'd never reach any kind of potential. And I felt in some ways like I don't want to say I didn't have a choice because we always have a choice, but the the choice between never doing anything and doing stuff. I mean, most of my travel, other than when I do tours, has been by myself.
Wow.
Um, is that my first choice? Probably not. I mean, it would be lovely to have someone to travel with, but you have to decide, am I going to wait for things to be perfect, which probably will never happen, or am I going to just do it?
So I want to put a call out to all single men that are watching. That if you like what Sheila's saying, why not get in touch with her? Maybe you can
Why
travel around
not?
the world together, right? And look at her. Why not? She's just walked right into it. So
Heck,
the the beauty of community is the opportunity to see things that we never would see before, to meet people we would never meet before. Sheila's already said one of the reasons why she's here is she loves meeting new people. So as jestful as I was in that, the truth of the matter is I was really truthful. There might be somebody here who's listening that feels the same way, that's living their life alone, that doesn't want to live their life alone. They would like to share the adventure of life with somebody, and why not reach out? This It could be nothing more beautiful than having two strangers come into a room being watched by other strangers, and another stranger sees something that they like and they act on it, whether that's a business or a relationship, whatever it is. Why not take advantage? Why not take some of those risks? Why not take some chances and reach out? Worst comes to worst, you end up just like you are, right? Best comes
make
to
a new
best,
friend.
you make a new friend, right?
Yeah,
So I took a turn that I didn't think it was going to take, but there we go.
me neither.
Okay, all right,
But
there.
thank you for the commercial.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, what are you most hopeful for?
I'm most hopeful that we will move beyond as a society, that we'll move beyond where we're at to a better place, to a place where people are more kind to each other, um, that we look out for our vulnerable, the people who are vulnerable, who are in our society, that will move away from, I hate to say this because I know I could get blasted for it, but capitalism at all costs,
Yeah.
to something that is um, more concerned with people over stuff and over money.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think we ever had that place? I was going to say what happened to it, but I'm wondering if we ever really had that place, or now it's just become exasperated.
I don't think we ever did. I grew up in the South in during Jim Crow, and when people would go, "Oh, remember the good old days? It was so wonderful." It's like, yeah, if you were a rich white man.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you weren't, maybe not so good.
Yeah.
Um, and so I've always been a little, yes, there's part of me that, you want things to be simpler and more wonderful and uh, caring and, but part of it is, I think you can either look at the negative of, now, or you can look at, well, there are a lot of things that have gotten better. We have
Yeah.
the possibility right now of really making a change. So I have issues sometimes with nostalgia because we remember things the way we want them to have been,
Yeah.
not the way they necessarily were.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think in some ways that's the beauty of the mind, that it makes things in distance, it makes things not quite as frightening or as hard as it was. But the tragedy of the mind is it makes us long for something that we think was but never really was. And instead of building that right now today when we have the power to do something. Um, why do you think people aren't kind to each other?
Well, part of the reason I think is because in a lot of ways we've become very anonymous. You can go online and you can be absolutely foul to someone and you're kind of protected because it's not like walking to your next door neighbor and saying rude, nasty things to them where they're close enough they can punch you in the nose if they want to.
Right.
You're far away, you've got a certain amount of anonymity, even if your name is up,
Right.
that I think that's part of it. Uh, I'm not sure about the rest. It saddens me.
Yeah.
It really does.
What do you think one thing people could do to who are also saddened by it to bring kindness back?
Well, I think one thing we can do, and you kind of touched on it, is to get to know people outside our little group. You know, I took a class when I was at UCLA called Stigma, the Anthropology of the Dangerous Other.
Wow.
And it
I
changed my
miss school.
worldview.
I miss school. What a great course to take.
It was amazing. It was amazing. And I'm so thankful I got a chance to tell the professor later that it really did change my worldview. And but the point is, in order to stigmatize a group, you have to make them an other. Like as they're not as caring, they're not as hardworking, they're not as human as we are. So, but once you know people and you know them by their name, they don't become those gays, but they become, Pat and Jane. They don't become those Muslims, but they're Muhammad and I can't think of another name, but you know what
Right.
I'm saying. You know them by name, and then that affects how you feel about the whole group because they're people. They're not. a unit or a other.
Yeah. In my life, I've had the beautiful opportunity to sit with some of the richest people in the world, not in their audiences, but at their dining room tables. I've been able to get to know them and their parents, their kids. I've played on the floor with their kids. I've sat with them, and they've been kind enough to give me counsel and to ask my counsel on certain things. And at the same point in time, I've been lucky enough to spend time with the poorest of the poor on street corners, sometimes on cardboard boxes, sometimes not even on cardboard boxes, and to have the opportunity to meet their friends, the people that they hang out with, sometimes their families, sometimes even their kids, and to receive counsel from them, and also they've sometimes asked for my counsel, and we've been lucky enough to sit with each other and share. And one of the people that really changed my life substantially, this is a long story. Do you mind if I tell you? It won't be too
No.
long, but is a homeless man I met in San Diego, and I'm a little bit of an empath, so I feel people a lot. And on this particular day, I felt people as I was walking by them on the street. I felt them. I felt pains in their knees. I would feel that pain. I would feel heart murmurs. I would feel that heart murmur. Headaches. I would feel their headache. I would feel back pain. And it just got so overwhelming to me that I just had to get off of the street and go to the side of the street and lean up against a wall and sit down. Well, the place that I decided to sit down was where Corey was sitting, and Corey was a homeless man. And when he saw me coming, he said, "No, no, no, this is my corner. This is my corner. This is mine. I've been here a long time. This is my corner." I said, my friend, I don't want anything from you. I just want to sit here, and I just actually want to listen to you. I want to talk with you and listen to how you are." And he said, "No, no, this is mine. I don't want to interrupt." And so I said to him, "How much money will you make in the next 20 minutes?" He said, $5. I'll make $5, and I can't lose that $5. So I went into my wallet. I pulled out $50 and I put it in his hat. He said, "Don't put it in my hat. Give it to me." So I gave it to him because people had stolen his money out of his hat.
Yeah.
So I gave it to him, and I said, "And anything else that you get is obviously it's all yours. I just want to sit here. I want you to feel that I want to give something to you, and I just also want to spend time to know you a little bit." It took him about 45 minutes to thaw out and just allow me in. And finally, after talking with him for a little while, I said, "Corey, you sit on the same corner day and night. You see the same people walking by you or different people. If you could stop them for a minute and just say something to them, what would you say?" And he said, "Danny, you have no idea how ugly it is to be homeless. And I hate being homeless. I'm ashamed of myself. I'm embarrassed. But people just treat me like a thing. They don't treat me like a person. They come and walk by and they'll punch me. They'll come and spit at me. They'll yell at me. They'll urinate on me. They'll throw human manure at me. And it's just so ugly. And one day that happened. All of that happened in the same day. And I thought to myself, this just isn't worth it. I mean, I don't love my life. Left alone, I don't love my life. But I'm not doing anything to help the world. People hate me. So I decided that evening I was going to go around the corner to a street that was dark and nobody goes on, and I was going to take my life. And I just thought, why do this anymore? I'm just going to end my life tonight. Then he told me not 2 minutes after I had that thought, a man came up and put his hand on my shoulder and said, "How are you doing, brother?" And he told me tears came down his eyes, crocodile-sized tears of just, he said, "It's not a good time, sir. It would be better for you to just walk on." But the man didn't walk on. He sat down next to him and he just held him. And he said, "I'm here for you. Tell me what's going on." And Corey cried and spoke and cried and spoke. And he said, "Danny, it only took about 10 minutes. But after 10 minutes, I felt entirely different. Somebody who was important actually spent time to sit with me, who's someone who was completely unimportant." And I realized I couldn't take my life that night because that had happened. Someone cared enough about me to sit with me. And so I would say to people, take 10 minutes out of the course of your life and go up to someone you don't know and just ask them how they are. He didn't try to fix me. He didn't try and help me. He didn't try and change me. He didn't try and do anything. He just sat with me and listened to me. And I never saw him again because I wanted to tell him that day he saved my life. Well, the interesting thing is, after hearing that story of Corey, I thought about it and felt it for a long time, and it really touched me. And I went back to tell him how much it touched me, but he wasn't there anymore. And I went back again and again, and I could never find him. And he'll never know that I've told his story in boardrooms and in lectures that I've given, in talks that I've taken, to government officials, to homeless people, to all sorts of people. And that story has now been told to millions of people. And Corey has no idea that his story has reached that people, always with his challenge, which is take 10 minutes out of the course of your life to go up to someone you don't know and just ask them how you're doing. There are so many people that are treated like things and not as humans. And I think what you're saying in your course that you got at UCLA, of the only way we can treat people so ugly is to not believe they're human beings, is to just think they're things. He said, I was treated worse than you would treat an animal. And so, for those of you who are listening, for anybody who hears this, remember your humanity. Remember that we are human beings. Remember that we all hurt in the same way. We all love in the same way. And take a minute and just be kind to each other. I want to thank you for letting me share that story with you, but what your course, it brought out that story from your course that you were talking about.
A beautiful story and a very important challenge. Yeah.
Do you feel like you give more than you receive, or you receive more than you give?
I try to give more than I receive. I feel pretty blessed, so sometimes that seems like it's a losing battle. But yeah, I do try to give more than I receive.
I love that. So you said you feel pretty blessed, and so sometimes it's a losing battle to give more than you receive. Is that because you receive so much?
Yeah, so much of the important stuff. I mean, I live in a small apartment in Los Angeles. It's not like I've got lots of financial things. But, you know, the stuff that's really important, I got a lot of that. I'm really fortunate.
That's beautiful. So what I found, and I want to lob this over the net to you, what I found is oftentimes the people that give have a little bit of difficulty receiving. But it doesn't sound like you have difficulty receiving. Do you have difficulty receiving?
Sometimes. You know, it depends on what it is. You know, if someone were to, you know, offer me a great deal of money, I think that would be a little uncomfortable. But, you know, kindness and things like that, it's lovely to, you know, giving compliments. This is something I think in particular for women. You know, we feel like we're being judged so much by society, particularly as we get older. You know, oh boy, she doesn't look too good for her age, or she's put on a little bit of weight. And if we can say to somebody, someone we don't even know, wow, you know, those are beautiful earrings, or oh, you've got gorgeous hair. I've done that, and you know, the surprise on their face and the look. Obviously, I don't want anything from them. I'm just telling them something, and they, oh, well, thank you. That, yes, I've given, but I've received too.
Yes.
And I think a lot of women do that. I don't think that, you know, the stereotype is that women can't be friends with women and that, you know, there's always that competition. And I think that's a bunch of baloney. I mean, yes, there are women like that, but I think most women aren't.
Let's go to something you said by the way, what you just said is beautiful, and I want people to replay it and hear it, because you, in giving, you receive, and if you're open to receiving. So many people use giving as a wall to block their vulnerability from being able to receive, but we can receive too. But I want to touch on something, because when you signed up for the conversation, one of the things you said you wanted to talk about was the situation of how women, as they grow older, or that the world just seems infatuated by the beauty of a woman rather than the inner beauty of a woman. Um, I want to give you a little chance to speak about that, to see what you actually feel.
Well, women are more so than men, and it happens to men as well, of course, but women more so are judged on their appearance. And this is, I live in Los Angeles, so definitely this is like the world capital of that. Um, and the thing is, when society is telling you that, as you get older, you're not going to be as desirable, you're not going to be as interesting, you're not going to be as capable, that even if you don't want to take that in, it's awfully hard not to, because that's what we're told over and over and over again. And I think it's so important for us um, to encourage each other, to see each other, and to see beyond, oh, look at her. Wow, she looks really good for her age. Who cares?
Right, right.
Seriously, that's so not important. My sister-in-law died when she was 18. She
Wow.
had osteogenic sarcoma, which is bone cancer. Um, and she was absolutely stunningly beautiful.
Yeah.
And she'll always be stunningly beautiful in everyone's minds, because she's frozen in time at 18 years old. At that point, I swore that I would never complain about getting older.
Hmm.
I was 27. That was a long time ago.
Yes.
But I haven't. I mean, there are things that aren't as good. I mean, sometimes the back hurts, sometimes,
Yes.
things like that. But what a gift! What a gift to get
Yeah.
older and to be able to have wonderful experiences. Um, and it seems like such. One of my things is I never lie about my age. I feel really strongly about that. Um,
Well, when you're 21 all the time, it's not, no, I'm teasing you.
uh, I am 67 and I refuse to lie about my age. And if someone wanted me to lie about my age, that would tell me all I would need to know about them.
Yes.
Um, but, to me, lying about your age, you've got this wonderful gift, and it's a way, it's like not acknowledging those
Yeah.
wonderful years that have been given to you.
Yes.
And because we're too vain, besides, I'd rather have people think I look good for 67 than really kind of like, whoa, she's
So,
40, but
so,
boy, has she had, hard life.
so let me ask you about this a little bit, because I'm 65, obviously, too, and I don't look like I did when I was 25 or 35, right? And so, um, but I find there's an inner strength that I have and an inner power that I have, that when I walk into a room, people don't care what I look like. I'm going to make the example not about myself, so it doesn't sound egoic. I've been in rooms with people where the most beautiful people have walked into the room, and people have flocked to those people and left them 10 seconds later because they couldn't stand who they were as human beings. I've been in rooms where the most beautiful people have walked into the room and gathered people around them because they're beautiful human beings, and their just beauty is not only outside, it's inside. But I've also been in rooms where some of the ugliest people that I've ever seen have walked into a room, and people shunned them initially, but one by one, people came up to him, and it was almost like bees being drawn to honey, because the honey was so sweet. It no matter, it no matter, it no longer mattered what they looked like, because people just wanted to be around them. in every culture that was an original culture, we know, and I'd be interested because you studied anthropology, that we know that the elders of that culture have always been respected and looked up to, that their wisdom was what guided the people, not what they looked like or how their bodies acted, behaved. What do you think it is about our culture that hypnotizes us to outer beauty versus to inner strength and beauty?
That's a really difficult question. I think a lot of it, well, okay, I think one factor, certainly, I don't know what all the factors are, but I think one of the factors is advertising.
Mm-hmm.
As I can speak, of course, as a woman, and the advertisers tell you have a problem, and then they tell you how they can fix it.
Yeah.
And it's been very lucrative for them to tell us the problem we have is aging, or we weigh too much, and that their product can fix it. And we bought into it. We've been injected, sliced, diced, creamed, pummeled, everything you can think of, and given them our money so that we can stay young or
Yeah.
think we've stayed young. Because, you know, you, you can't stay young. That's not really a possibility.
Yeah.
And if you think about what you felt like when you were, say, a teenager, would you really want to stay like that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So my reframe would be that you can stay young. You can always stay young at mind and young at heart. Your body's going to go through the aging process, because otherwise you would be, not a human being. So we all go through the process of aging, but that doesn't mean that our mind has to become rigid and stiff and full of painful thoughts. It doesn't mean we have to be filled with regrets. We can. One of the things that I loved about you from the moment I met you was how you said that I love this. I love the opportunity for new experiences. That's something that is so unique and fresh, and it's almost, it caught my mind, it caught my eye, it caught my ear, because so many people who get older don't aren't open to new experiences. They shun new experiences because they're scared of what will happen if they enter into new experiences. And
And
so,
I would just,
please,
excuse me, I was just going to say, can I tell you about my friend Lynn Ruth Miller?
please.
She is one of the youngest people I know. She's in her mid 80s. She started doing stand up comedy when she was 71,
Wow.
and she works really hard at it. She couldn't get any traction here in the States. She moved to England. She is now traveling all over the world. Last year, she went to Southeast Asia. She's been all over Europe. She has been at the Edinburgh Festival every year, probably for 10 years or more. They didn't have it this year, but normally. Um, and she is amazing, and people adore her
Yeah.
because she's just so fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's, I, I want I want to hold on to that kind of feeling, that kind of looking for what's coming next, and isn't this exciting and isn't this fun, like Lynn Ruth.
I love that. Sheila, I want to thank you so much for spending time with us today. And I want to thank you for taking your time and sharing the beauty of your excitement to experience life and new situations with us, because all too often we lose that excitement. And I love that you have come from the perspective you come from the age that you are, from the beauty that you have as a human being, and share that with people who take it for granted a little bit and or are scared to death of it. So I want to really thank you for that. And I want to thank you for sharing that with us. For those of you who are listening, I want to invite you to re-listen, to hear, in every culture, and Sheila's by no means old, but the ancient civilizations have always looked to their elders for advice. We sometimes do that now and sometimes shun them away because they're not pretty enough or not thin enough or don't have enough hair or don't have whatever it is they don't have. I want to ask you as a listener, if you think it might be time to re-examine some of that. If we might learn from some of the things that those who have gone before us have learned. And if it might open our minds up to a different way of seeing the world, because everything about Mosaic is seeing the world from a different perspective. So I invite you to take the perspective that Sheila is offering you right here, to live life excited by what the moment offers, excited by the new opportunity to meet a new person. And for those of you single guys out there, again, I want to just say Sheila is available. I don't know if she is available, but I'm making her available. I could get myself in a lot of trouble, but I'm going to say she's available.
I am.
And I want you to, if you feel drawn to, reach out to her and contact her. Sheila, before we go, I want to just ask you, is there one last thing you want to share with people?
Just to go for it. This isn't a dress rehearsal. This is our lives. These are the days we've been given, and they're such a gift. And there's so many things you can do. If you can't do one thing, find something else that you can do that'll give you a jolt to make you happy.
I love that. Guys, go for it, okay? And again, thank you for being here, Sheila. Thank you, folks, for being here. Look how beautiful what just happened was. Sheila was an absolute stranger when she walked into the room. Now I feel like she's my friend. What did it take? It took less than an hour. It isn't hard to make people your friend. And we didn't make it. Make, I don't mean force. I don't mean, strain. All it takes is a genuine inquisitiveness into their life. Let them tell you who they are. You don't need to fix them. You don't need to change them. You don't need to help them, just like Corey said. Just take a few minutes and ask somebody how you're doing. And be open to just listening to them and hear them and respond to what they're saying, not the questions you've made up that you think would be interesting questions. Respond to the things that they're saying and engage with them. And as Sheila so beautifully said, just go for it. Why sit on the sidelines waiting? This isn't a trial rehearsal. This is the life you've been given to live. Why not live it? So I challenge each of you to do the challenge of Corey. Go out and find someone you don't know and ask them how they're doing and make friend with them. When we live in a world where people are strangers, we live in a strange world. But when we live in a world where people are friends, it's a friendly world. I think it's time for us to have a friendlier world than the world we're living in right now. And we can contribute to that, one person at a time. Make your world a little bit friendlier by making a stranger into a friend. Until the next stranger enters this room, I want to thank you again. Sheila, thank you for being here. And listeners, thank you for being a part of this journey with us. Until the next stranger, be friends. Be kind. Take care of each other. See you next time.